The Oneida Singers have been singing the hymns of the church for years. Their history goes back to our homeland in New York. The late Oscar Archiquette, an Oneida leader and member of the Oneida Singers, talks about how they started.
The history of the Oneida Indian Prayer Singers, as they were called in New York, goes back to the earliest white settlers of the United States.
Translated into the Oneida Mohawk language by Eleazar Williams, an Episcopal missionary, Oscar goes on to explain how Williams taught the Oneidas and how they learned.
The Oneidas used to listen to the singing of white settlers and memorize the tune. From this, they made their Indian words fit the tune and music.
When the Oneida people were removed from New York to what is now Wisconsin, they brought the music with them.
I wasn't singing, and I started to learn with Oscar Archiquette when he had classes in 1964. My husband, Everett, asked me to go along with him to listen to and learn how they go about the singing and that. So this was all new to me. He'd write the names down or the words down in the Oneida language, and he let us know how what they were, what they meant and everything. And then pretty soon he start singing the hymns. Then he gave us a hymn book to go by. So we started learning by that.
How I got involved with the Oneida Singers was in Milwaukee it would have had to have been the late 60s, early 70s. And there were a group of Oneidas that would meet on Wednesday evenings, I believe it was Wednesdays. And my dad always did like Oneida singing, and my mom, my dad, me and my sister would join that group of people, and they met at each other's house. I was between the age of, I'm going to say 8 and 11, somewhere in there. I remember going to their house, Edith Weiland, and it was a lower level, and it was in a living room. And all the adults sat on all her furniture and brought in the kitchen chairs, and the kids all sat on the floor. And then periodically we would get guest visitors from Oneida. I remember Lomas John coming down. He would ride with George Ninham, Ruth Baird, and the old timers. They just really had a good time. I can remember sitting on the floor as a kid and watching one of the old ladies. They would just sing and their eyes would close and they wouldn't be reading the words, they were just feeling the music. As a kid, I used to think, I can't wait to someday to be singing a song with my eyes closed.
That was more of what we were to be responsible for, to sing at the wakes. The words in those songs really talk about, death and love. It's got the Christian focus with Jesus Christ. It talks about beyond, the place beyond, how it's going to be good.
Joe Shankton, former owner of Ryan's Funeral Home, talks about the history his business has had with the Oneida Singers.
Our relationship with the Oneida Singers started back in the 1920s when we first started having the ability to be able to serve from the 1920s up to the present time. And the Oneida Singers were always a vital component. And truly over the years, our relationships with all of the Oneida Singers has grown into one of mutual friendship. When Bob Ryan Jr. or Robert B. Ryan died, part of his funeral plans were to have the Oneida Singers sing at his visitation. So Bob was really the only visitation that the Oneidas sang for outside of the Oneida community, and which of course the family and us were also extremely honored. When my time comes, I'm hoping that the Oneida Singers will be here for us also.
At wakes, I would go with my mother and dad to some of the wakes also, and they would sing in Oneida at the wakes, but they sang all night then. They would sing all night, and always I always thought it was the middle of the night. I'm not sure if it was or not, but they would stop singing and they would have a like a little meal for the singers, or for anybody that was there actually, and they'd stop and they'd all eat, and when they got done with that, then they'd go back to singing again.
Well, as a kid, my dad was always singing in Oneida Hymn, and I can remember late at night I could hear him singing in the dark, in the nighttime. He took singing quite seriously, and I know that his family, he and his sisters, they all sang harmony. They all had different parts to sing. And I knew that when there was a funeral, someone would come to the house and ask for their family, and they would go.
My knowledge pretty much starts with being at the coattails of my grandma Blanche McLester. I remember them having practice over by the church. She would, just walk over and practice singing with them. I'd go along. It was during that time, and that was in the 40s. You just kind of became immersed in it. So you would hear the songs, and if you reached a point where you felt confident enough, you would go and participate with the singers. You got all these elders watching over and listening to you, and you didn't do that right. Kind of give you hell when you needed it. But it takes time for people that want to come in and associate. It's just like joining the band and joining the football team or baseball team. You got to go in and build your reputation, and eventually they accept you.
The tradition of hymn singing is being carried on through the Oneida children, who are learning about the history and learning the songs through the Oneida Arts Program and Music of Our Culture, or MOC.
It's very different now teaching students than it would have been for the elders that are currently singing, because the current elders, a lot of them, their families were just going to church, and you were getting dropped off at church for the singing. I hear a lot of stories of, we'd hang out and someone would start singing one of the hymns, and so then the rest of us would start singing. A lot more of it was happening at home, and it was just an expectation for you. And for our children now, again, we're trying to find that really good balance of getting them to enjoy it, but also making sure that they know it and are taught it properly, because there are so much distractions that exist nowadays compared to when those elders were children learning it. You've got cell phones and tablets, and there's all kinds of instant gratification, really easy entertainment that just didn't exist. So we have a lot more to compete with, which is why I think we have to be mindful of how we're pivoting and adapting to that.
The Oneida Singers have a rich history in our community. They have always been there to provide comfort for families who have lost a loved one, or to celebrate an important event in our community. The children who are learning the hymns through the Music of Our Culture program are the strength and hope that this important tradition is carried on within the Oneida Nation.